Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Labor Day today. And coincidentally enough, we're going to talk about what Labor Day stands for, which is what? Working, giving a tribute to people who help build and strengthen this nation. I bet you didn't know that. But basically, I want to talk about a different aspect of labor, or i.e. working, getting the job in the first place. Now, on this channel, I talk a lot about how the mental performance industry moves, how to get into it, maybe what not to do. But I'm going to talk about something I don't think gets talked about at all: the job interview. And I don't mean going on it and getting the job, but what happens afterwards. And that's what people don't talk about. The interview doesn't end after you get the job. It's actually just beginning. And what I mean by this, now that I've had numerous people come and go through Mind Body One's doors, some good, some not so much, some who are cut out for it, some not so much, is that they all had mostly one thing in common. Some didn't. It was amicable, but most of them had one thing in common. Once I hired them, whether for the intern or mentorship or for a paid role or anything in between, they got somewhat complacent. And not in the sense of we don't care. That's not what I'm saying. Because as a leader, I have to pride myself on being able to get them to get the buy-in, to want to do what we do and build the mission of Mind Body One. But one thing that does happen, and this is not exclusive to us, is that the complacency, or the somewhat of it, is that once you get the job, you're like, oh, I put my best foot forward and it was enough. But in actuality, you have to prove more than that. It doesn't mean that you're not appreciated. So I don't want to conflate the two, but ask yourself, once you got in the doors, were you doing the things that you said you would do on the application? Did you do the things you said you would do in the interview? Did you showcase them for the first 3 weeks, 3 months, and then kind of dialed it back because now you're comfortable? This happens all the time. Let's look at romantic relationships, right? People talk about the honeymoon phase where people fall in love fast. They love everything about the other person. They're infatuated and there's nothing they could do wrong. But after a few weeks to months, the littlest things might turn them away. But just like a job, it's the same thing. But the difference here is there's profits on the line. So when I talk about this is why I got in the doors I've gotten into, I actually worked as if I was still trying to get the job. So are you doing these things? If it took to get a job having a degree, which most of us have, or having certain experiences through internships or creating certain programs, which most of us have, great. But did you keep doing that? Did you get more experience beyond it? Because a lot of times this happens in a lot of fields, right? Do you trust a doctor that hasn't kept up with the most up-to-date things? Yeah, they're certified and they got their licensures where they need it, but there's always something coming out. And I implore you to ask yourself that, because if there's a gap in what you're trying to do and what you want to do, and you still expect more from it, that's kind of like the whole insanity thing, doing this but expecting something else. It doesn't work. You have to treat it as if you owe the job everything. And I know you're like, why do I? They could fire me in a heartbeat. True. And guess what? You can quit in a heartbeat. Now, you can say, Nick, I'm biased, but I'm kind of in the middle of both, right? I'll give you some insight. I run my own business. I've had numerous people say, that's amazing. You're your own boss. You answer to nobody. You make your own hours. But it's quite the contrary. I answer to multiple people because the contracts that we have, there's people in charge of them that I got to answer to and make sure I'm appeasing them. You don't think that requires selling myself and being able to do more than what's promised? And guess what? They want to be appeased because they're the ones in charge. So once they brought me on and paid us what they pay us, it wasn't me like, okay, we're in there now. Let's kick back and let's chill. No, it was step it up even more and do more than what's asked and expect less than what's deserved. Now you're saying, but that doesn't make sense. If I work hard, I want to be compensated accordingly. Yes, I get that. But in actuality, if you're doing exactly what's needed, you're no different than anyone else. And people run companies see this. Now, at the level I'm at, I can move a little bit differently since I'm the one who makes almost all the calls. But the higher it gets, it's the easiest for them to say, we can find someone else to not do what we want. Now, some jobs at a point where you can get away with that and you just kind of exist. But when it comes to being the person they can't say no to, and this is something I live by, whether it's getting contracts or it's getting jobs or just doing what you do and being the best, you have to make it to the point where they cannot either exist without you or dang near will fold if you weren't there. Now, granted, anyone could be replaced, but you can make that almost impossible for them to do. So think about the aspects next time you go on a job interview, next time you submit your resume. Think to yourself, am I just doing this because I'm trying to, one, get paid, get in the door, and once I'm in there, it's kind of like, let's just coast? Because more than likely, especially in this industry, since there's not any really billion-dollar mental performance companies, not to my knowledge. Now, there's mental health entities that are subsidiaries of bigger companies that worth billions, sure. But for the fact that most of this are through organizations or pro teams, things like that, or colleges, you don't see a lot of money and revenue being generated. It's easier for them to fall by the wayside in the sense of just doing enough to get by, do the status quo. But if you want to thrive in this industry in any regard, you're going to have to treat it like you aren't owed anything. That entitlement that sometimes gets in our heads when we achieve something, you're rightfully so to feel proud, feel confident. I love that. And I'm like that myself. But I never lose the fact that, just kind of a contradiction what I just said, that I can be replaced at any time. I know you're thinking like, oh, make it so you're impossible to replace. Guess what? With my confidence and what I've done and proven, I am hard to replace. But I'm still replaceable for any other reason outside of my talents. And I think that's where this industry falls by the wayside is it strictly looks at the talent or the act of implementing sessions or interventions or working with teams versus the fact that, no, you're always selling yourself, whether you're an entrepreneur, a worker, or everything in between. So guys, don't think that job interview is done once you sign on to that team or company. It's just getting started. And that's my pathology.